I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm John.
On this episode of Battlecries and Champagne, let's dance. Remixes, single versions, demos, and other things.
I haven't stopped dancing since the last recording.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was such a fun episode.
I'm tired.
John, why don't you start us off and tell us what's been going on in your dancing since the last time we spoke?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well. Just went through an election cycle in the city I moved to a couple years ago. First time voting here, and none of the people I voted for got elected. Woo! And then beyond that, just trying to convince my young coworkers to actually give a crap about politics, which, is a continual challenge. It's kind of funny, me being in that position when I was just the same when I was their age.
Yeah, but that means you can speak to them better because you know what they're going through.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. But yeah, speaking of, how are you doing? Rebooting. It's John, Aaron, and I'm drawing a blank on.
It's Andrew. I'm doing great. One of my oldest friends has just forgotten my name.
Andrew. All right. I don't know, but all that said, yeah. How's it going with you, Andrew?
It's going good. My wife and I booked our trip to go down to Mexico over in April, so looking forward to being on the beach for a little bit. That kind of early spring is my least favorite time of year because it's cold. But you can't really do any winter sports. Like, I love to ski and to be outside during the winter. And April, where we live, is just kind of muddy and dirty as everything's melting. And the, sand and garbage that's collected over the winter is, like, poking through the snowbanks and whatnot. And, listeners from Western Canada, I think, will appreciate this. And people in other parts of the world might have no idea what we're going on about. But don't come to Winnipeg in April. I wouldn't recommend it.
I always like to call that purgatory season because you're kind of stuck between, the goodness that you can get out of winter and then, like, the summer heat that washes all that away. Mm-hmm. It's just messy for like a month. Yeah. And Aaron, what's up with you?
Well, over the weekend, I caught Paul McCartney live. For the first time in my life. I was happy with that.
Did it live up to like expectations of what you were expecting?
Well, okay, so what I'll say is I was maybe not as excited as I thought I would be, but it has nothing to do with Paul McCartney. I would say like his voice was better than I was expecting it to be. His musicianship was obviously fantastic. I thought like maybe I would find the set list a little too predictable, but in the moment I enjoyed that too. It was just we were at the US Bank Stadium, which I found out after I got tickets is known for having terrible sound.
Oh yeah, stadiums and arenas, they suck for concerts. Let's be honest. They're not made for acoustic experiences.
Yeah, I think I have unfortunately been because most concerts I see are like smaller acts or whatever, so they're usually in a more intimate venue. And I think I have been spoiled by that like atmosphere and just like the like I feel like it's just so easy for an artist to connect in that setting compared to in a stadium, especially when you're trying to save a bit of money, so you're like in the nosebleeds. Like it felt like I could have been watching that thing on a screen and like I would have the same like I never felt like part of the. And like and the people in my section, like no one was standing up. It was like some people didn't even clap.
No, there's like no intimacy in that. Like I've watched an RQntz concert and a Mother concert in an arena, and like as much as I love those bands and they were fantastic performers, the sound really sucked, and like it didn't feel like you had much of a connection to the performers. You weren't close. We weren't close enough to them. We saw them, at squinting distance, and it's It's not as enjoyable as if you go to like a small theater or something.
The last big show that I went to was Bruce Springsteen, and who's one of my favorite artists, and still puts on a great show and is super energetic and is an amazing musician. We were in literally the back row of the arena behind the stage.
Oh,
and the sound was terrible. It was so bad.
Why'd they even sell that seat?
I don't know why they even sold it. I mean,
because you bought them. Because people will buy those tickets and spend the money.
Well, exactly. I don't regret going, but that was not like the best concert experience. And actually, I know the venue you're talking about in Minneapolis because I saw Billy Joel there.
Okay.
I don't know, what was that? Maybe 10 years ago. It also sucked. Like like not the show, but the audio. So, yeah, it's too bad that you had that experience because Paul McCartney still does put on like a pretty good show. I think it is impressive, actually.
Yeah. So, but actually, thank you for reassuring me that I'm not just being a real big negative Nelly, but that it's actually a commonly shared experience.
Yeah, so I guess, Aaron, take us into what we're talking about today.
Okay, so obviously this is the You've Been Around episode, right? So we're going to kind of cover different mixes and versions of the songs that are on the album Let's Dance. Basically, this is kind of a nice exploration, really, of the history of remixes in a sense, because we're really going from like 1982, the really early era of like disco mixes, to right up until 2023, I think, is our most recent remix. So we're getting to see that genre of music evolve. So I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about those things. And the first song that we'll start with is simply the single version of Let's Dance.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one, right? Because I know I said in the last episode, like, obviously this is a great song, I love it, and I dance to this all the time, every time I hear it. But it is a bit long, right? Mm-hmm. Especially at the end, like it's a bit chaotic and could have been tightened a bit. The single edit is still over 4 minutes, which is not that short for a single, right?
Yeah.
So I think they've tightened it up really well. If I was editing it, I don't know, there might be a 6-minute version that is kind of finding a happy medium between the two, because I do like the longer intro and outro that got clipped a bit here. You know, just last weekend I was in a store here shopping for a picture frame, and this song was playing. It was the radio or the single edit. You know, they wouldn't have played the 7-minute version, I don't think. Yeah. Or they would have, if they played it, they would have like moved. They would have cut the end off, right? Which is kind of what they did here. So I don't know what service they were using, but I see why they did it. It's still a really strong track, whether it's 4, 5, 6 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. Original track is 7.5 minutes about that, and tightening it up, obviously this brought it into much more of a marketable format for, consumption over radio and stuff like that.
Just to bounce off what you were saying, Andrew, just to kind of go over some of the changes that were made. As you said, the intro is shortened. What's really interesting is that Stevie Ray Vaughan's first guitar solo they only keep one note of it, so not much of a solo anymore. And then the instrumental break is also shortened, and then so is Stevie Ray Vaughan's second guitar solo. And what's also I find very interesting is that the breakdown of the song is completely taken out, even though Nile Rodgers had alluded to like how commercial that decision was, like how he felt the audience really responded well to a breakdown. And I guess you're thinking more in terms of like maybe a club setting or like a concert setting, so you don't need a breakdown on the radio. But it is interesting that was cut out, seeing how important Nile Rodgers and Bowie felt about that part of the song.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a shame that Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar solo is cut out, because that's one of my favorite parts of the song. It's just fantastic guitar work. Yeah. Yeah.
So in Andrew's 6-minute version, we might have kept that.
Yeah. But, well, the next version of Let's Dance we're going to look at is the demo. So this obviously we're going back in time here. So this demo was recording at Mountain Recording Studio, which of course was a studio owned by the group Queen. And the first album they had worked on there was the infamous Hot Space, which if you are a Queen fan, is actually an album of Queen's that I enjoy thoroughly, even though it is usually not well liked by the fan base. Anyway, so it was either the owner of Mountain Studio, so I guess someone in Queen's management, or the creator of Montreux Jazz Fest, Claude Nebs, that brought together this demo band for Bowie, who kind of requested rather last minute in December 1982. Actually, the date here I have is the 19th of December, so really close to Christmas, to get this band together to test out Nile Rodgers' arrangement of the song. And basically, the group is composed of Erdal Kazilke on bass, who's suggested by engineer David Richards, who was also someone who had worked with Bowie in the past, and also was a strong collaborator of Queen's.
Ask about that. Sorry, yeah, because there's this little quip that Bowie has at the beginning of the song saying, "This is the James Brown band." And I wasn't sure if that was like a joke or if he was being serious that there were members of the James Brown band in there.
Totally a joke. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Just one of those funny things he he was a funny guy.
Yeah.
Is this the one too where he says there's $100 fine if you play any of their
Yeah,
songs?
that was also...
Yeah. I was always confused about $100, but of course it's from Switzerland, so...
There you go.
Yeah.
See, I knew that was a joke, and then like what he followed it, I just wasn't sure if he was just introducing the band he's playing with. That's a little strange that he's playing with the James Brown band and like
especially on a demo session. Yeah. But anyway, Erdal Kazilke will actually go on to collaborate with Bowie a lot in the 80s and into the early 90s as well. So he's a name to remember. But this is the first session he's worked where he works with Bowie. And apparently, although, as we talked about just a second ago, the Frank thing, it was a joke, but according to Kazilke, the rate that musicians got for this demo session was below the usual rate. So we are trying to save some money here on this session. According to Nile Rodgers, this is the only demo that he and Bowie recorded together, and Bowie had recorded demos for the song Shake It, Modern Love, Ricochet, and Without You separately. But David Richards, again the engineer on this, claimed that Bowie and Rodgers demoed all of the songs for the album in 2 days in Switzerland, which Rodgers does not have any recollection of. So who knows?
It's kind of interesting how two people can have such different recollections of like which songs did he record, how many.
Exactly. Particularly I feel like engineers who I feel like generally like are logging these things somewhere. Like someone's got to have a logbook of these sessions, like just so people can get paid and all that stuff, right? But who knows?
Where did they do the actual album recording? Because I don't believe it was Switzerland, right?
No, yeah, it was in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a departure there. I wonder why they chose Switzerland for this demo.
Yeah, well, so this where like Bowie lived in Switzerland, so the studio was like right down from his house, right? So it was very convenient for him to get there in like a 20-minute drive or whatever. So that's why this location was chosen. So the interesting thing about this demo, and this will kind of lead us into what we think about it, is that there are 3 different versions of the demo that exist. So the original release of this demo was on a 12-inch Record Store Day release, which is around the 7-minute mark. And then there was a 5-minute 18-second version that was released as a digital single, and then there was a radio edit of that 5:18 edit released as a second digital single to a version of Let's Dance we'll get into later. So there's just all these demos, versions of the same demo lurking around, which is a little confusing. And what's super interesting is that when they are making these edits on these demos, they're not being 100% honest, because, well, I'll let you hear this. Basically, they actually like edit some lines around so that it sounds like they're flowing, but they're actually from different places depending on which demo you listen to. So I'll let you hear. And then this is the version from the radio edit. So, what do you guys think of the demo in general?
The concept of a radio edit of a demo is just kind of funny to me. I have to say I was kind of confused by that when I was preparing for this. Like, what is this? What is this record?
You know what? There are instances where like the demo or a demo becomes like a huge thing for an artist. Mm-hmm. I've noticed that a lot in like, you know, the days of SoundCloud and Spotify and whatever, you know, you can blow up unintentionally. This is obviously a very different production style so yeah, it is kind of funny, a radio edit of a demo from this time period.
So I think a lot of the true Bowie heads or whatever, mm-hmm. I just made that up, but the diehard fans, the criticism of a lot of the 80s stuff is that it's a bit vapid, it's a bit empty, it's too commercial, blah blah blah. I feel like this demo is kind of how they would have wanted it to sound. Like it's much less produced. Obviously, it's a demo, but it feels more raw.
Yeah, I was going to use that word.
It feels more simple. It feels a bit more like some of Bowie's earlier stuff, which is interesting. I wonder what the reaction would have been to if you just take this and you polish it and you release it instead of turning it into a pop hit. Kind of like an interesting what if.
Yeah, you know, it's a cleaner sounding version, right? It's more simplified and it isn't produced with all this additional post-production stuff or whatever. But also at the same time, I don't think it's like suitable to what the album became, which was, you know, a very synthy, dancey club kind of bop. This is fun, but it isn't really what was in the clubs at the time. And, you know, I guess it kind of misses what the album became.
If I was going to release this as like the album version, I would put the bass from the album version back in, because I really loved, like, it was super groovy. I really loved it, and I think was missing actually from the demo. So I understand why some people like look back on the kind of syrupy synthy stuff and say that didn't age as well, but like man, it needs that bass line from the album version to take it from good to great, in my opinion.
That's fair. And you know what? One other thing that really jumped out at me was that, you know, there isn't like the whole backing vocals and kind of effects going on with the vocals. So it's just Bowie just kind of shouting in a microphone, but it also seems like a little bit less shouty. But he does some really fun just like vocalizations just on his own around like the 420 mark. He starts just shouting "Let's dance." And I love it. Like, it feels like this is a very long demo, obviously. It's like 8 minutes, but like it doesn't really feel like it drags on. It's just like got a groove and it's chugging along, and it doesn't feel like it's getting old at any point. But, you know, that's a personal thing.
Yeah, no, I think you can definitely feel that the musicians are having fun, right?
Yeah.
And they're in the pocket, as it were. What I like about it is that you can hear particularly the lyrics, the "Tear My Heart in Two" and the addition of the "Serious Moonlight," like they're part of this ad-lib section that Bowie's doing, so it kind of feels like he's writing on the spot, and it's kind of cool to see like how those ideas would obviously, you know, later be turned into official lines in the song. And then just going back to the differences between the different versions, so the radio edit is actually the only one that has Bowie's introductory joke about the James Brown band and the fines and stuff. So like I don't know like why you wouldn't have put that on the original release of the demo, like the full version. I don't know why you have to get the radio edit to get that bit of studio banter. Basically, you have to have all three of those to get a whole piece, but there was no official release of that whole demo. So you really have to get, if you want the official stuff, you have to go do the piecemeal thing and get all three versions. Moving on, we're going to skip ahead here by quite a few years. We're going to be in 2003. There are a few 80s mixes of Let's Dance that I don't have access to, so we're gonna skip over those. So those include there's a Disco Net remix from 83, there's a remix by Rusty Garner and Paul Cebu from 85, and a Music Factory master mix from 89. Anyway, in 2003 there's this Bowie remix compilation called Club Bowie, which has this, if you've ever seen the artwork, it's this garish, bright orange artwork. Most of this compilation is remixes that are quote-unquote called Asian remixes because they come out of Stung Music Studio, which is based in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. So a bunch of engineers, local musicians from that music studio group, I guess, got together and added some instrumentation and remixed some of the elements of these songs. Bowie was very open to these remixes. He felt that, especially during the Ziggy Stardust period, he had borrowed a lot from Asian culture, so it was only fair that he give back and allow them to remix his material. Yeah, so the Let's Dance song is the Club Bolly. We're going to talk about the extended mix, but again, there are different edits and versions of this mix. There is the Club Bolly Radio Mix 1. There's also the Club Bolly Radio Mix 2, but to get that one, you have to buy this promo CD, which is currently retailing at $1,627 Canadian. So,
boy.
So that.
What kind of retail store is selling it for that price?
That's on the secondhand market.
It's the eBay scalpers.
It's an extremely rare promo CD that also has exclusive versions called the Club Bolly Nocturnal Mix and the Bollywood movie mix of Let's Dance. So those have not been officially released. They were only passed around to certain radio stations in the Asian market in around 2003 and have since disappeared. We will start a GoFundMe so we can...
Yeah. We'll let you know when we get that one.
Just so you can hear our opinions on the Club Bolly Radio Mix 2. I'm sure you're all dying to know.
Because my love for you would break my heart in two. If you should fall into my arms and tremble like a flower.
So yeah, the Club Bolly mix. What do we think about this one?
I kind of like it. I mean, I'm not like someone who listens to Bollywood music or anything like that, Punjab music, but like it is like a very fun mix. I thought the vocalization was super fun, although I don't understand it. I got a bit of a psychedelic feeling from it too, which I know is typically sometimes associated with like, Indian music and like sitar and whatever. No, it was a fun jam. Interesting take on it. I wasn't really expecting to ever hear.
It for sure is quite different as a remix. And actually, you were talking about being unsure of what the translation of the words were. And I know that Andrew's our resident lyrical expert, so I was hoping you actually did the work and translated these lyrics.
You know what? I tried. I spent quite a bit of time trying to track down the Hindi lyrics.
Nice! Oh, we could rely on them.
I couldn't find them. So if anybody out there speaks Hindi or just like has access somehow to a lyric sheet for this, I don't know where you even would find such a thing, but if you have it, we'd love to hear from you. But I don't unfortunately know.
Got to raid an old abandoned radio station in India or something.
Yeah.
Got to find that cracked CD case on the ground.
Hey, that's the thing about the internet is it's global, right? No, I think you're right though, John. Like, this was kind of fun. Yeah, a little psychedelic. It's playful. Might not be for everyone, but I think it's probably fun for them to make, and I think I had fun listening to it. So
yeah,
I totally agree. I think like the original version of Let's Dance, and actually I should mention this when we were talking about the demo too, I find like I really do enjoy the percussion on Let's Dance, and obviously that is lacking on the demo. Here they don't have the same percussion, but they have like Indian percussion, which I think is great. Like I think that song just needs percussion of some sort, so that's really cool. I think it is one of the better Let's Dance remixes.
Yeah. And
then just to quickly break down some of the distinctions between the three versions we have access to. So Radio Mix 1 is basically the same as the Bolly Club mix, but with a little bit more percussion and a longer outro. And then the Bolly Club mix is just a condensed version of the extended mix, less musical breaks, and then there's a little bit less Hindi as well in there. So I think it's worth checking out, right?
Yeah, I would agree.
The next one we're going to talk about is the Trifactor versus Deeper Substance remix. This was also released on Club Bowie, or the mixing engineers here are Vic Odin and Artemis Hadjigeorgiou. Artemis Hadjigeorgiou. And I want to get on.
Yeah, I'm not going to try that when you guys are on your own.
Hadjigeorgiou.
Okay.
Apologies to any Greek listeners. I'm assuming it's Greek. I'm not even sure.
Said with a lot of confidence.
This one here, I feel is like more of a classic dance remix. Like it's pretty dance clubby.
Yeah. Kind of techno. Yeah.
This was my favorite of the different dance remixes.
Okay, interesting.
So,
oh, really?
Yeah. Okay, so Trifactor is a guy called Kevin Freeman, who's Canadian, and Deeper Substance is Mitch Alexander out of the UK. And I was kind of hoping for like a rap battle kind of setup where it's like competing. The first half of the song is one guy's remix, and the other half is a different. It's actually a collaboration between them. So that was a little bit of a letdown, but I thought this was a fun mix. I have to ask though, about 4 minutes and 28 seconds, sounds like a maraca is coming in. Like there's this weird like kush kush kush.
Really?
What is that about?
I don't know what it's about, but I do remember that part of the song.
Kind of felt a little jarring, but overall this was, I would say, my favorite.
Yeah, that's a really random sound. I just skipped to that right now. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this mix. You know, I'm not a huge fan of the percussion in this one, and the reverb, I don't know, I found it a little busy and a little discombobulating, but the bass line that kicks in at about 2 minutes, I am all about that. I love that.
Yeah, it's groovy. It is.
And it's funny that you mentioned the remix artists. First of all, fantastic artist names like Trifactor and Deeper Substance. Like those are peak dance music DJ names for sure. The whole verses thing, I'm glad you dug into that, but because typically in like electronic music that can mean like two remix versions that are kind of mixed into one. So you get elements from both producers. And sometimes it can be just both producers doing it at the same time, like mixing together. That's interesting. Thanks for digging into that and clarifying it. It's also a very long track with a lot of the dance remixes we'll be listening to today. Very long tracks like this with a very long intro, very long outro. They are, I might have said it in previous episodes, they're designed that way so that they can be easily mixed in a DJ set. When you're seeing a performing DJ, it's easy to like have these long transition periods between songs and blend them one into the other. So that's probably the purpose of the length.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we talked about the last time we did a YBA. Wow, some of these dance mixes, they don't like sound that great on their own. You kind of need to imagine them as tools for a DJ as opposed to like something that you would just play at home. So that's a good point. That's worth keeping in mind as we go through these.
Yeah. Okay, well then I guess maybe that quells a complaint I had where I said maybe this remix could venture past the first verse. Like I feel like, you know, they get a lot of juice out of that first verse of the song, but there, you know, I know there aren't a lot of lyrics to this song, but there are more than just one verse. So in 11 minutes they could have gone somewhere with that.
Well, you just got to imagine when you're flying high at the club on whatever kind of indulgences you've taken part in, you don't listen so much to the lyrics, I would think. Honestly, dance music is not typically known for its lyrical complexity, so like I can forgive it in that regard, but yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. They didn't venture into the lyrics very far.
Next version is obviously not a dance mix. It's the Nile Rodgers string version that was recorded as part of this project where they, a bunch of different producers from the 80s took some of their songs and then they added orchestral arrangements to them. Came out in 2018 for Let's Dance's 35th anniversary, sorry. Yeah, so the strings are arranged obviously by Nile Rodgers, who produced this track along with Russell Graham, and it was mixed by Mark Stent. There is obviously the full version, which appears on the 80s Symphonic compilation CD, and then there's, of course, a radio edit of that string version.
I'll run with you. If you say hide, we'll hide. Because my love for you.
So, what do you guys think of this version with strings?
So obviously this came out in 2018, so Bowie would not have heard it.
Yes.
But I think you would like it. Like, they just took the Funko-meter and turned it up to 11 on this one. Like, I love those flourishes that the strings add. I mean, the original is still the gold standard for me, but I don't know. This was fun. Really true to the 80s. The version that we'll link in the YouTube notes has this great, like, glass violin on the cover that, like, musically I don't think that would work, but, like, it just screams.
Yeah, the neon strings I don't think are accurate to actual instruments.
Probably not, but it just screams 80s, and I'm there for it.
Oh, yeah. Man, I love this version. I gotta say, like, again, I don't think it would fit on the original album with its dancey kind of 80s nature, but I am such a sucker for strings. I have to say, I think I like this better than the original. Just symphonic versions of stuff, it just feels so rich and like deep, and there. You look at the number of artists that were involved in this. I don't know if it's accurate or not because YouTube says it was like an auto-generated description, but like they had a full symphony like working on this. Like it was incredible, a huge string section. So it's got depth in that sense.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna have to echo you. I think this is the best version of Let's Dance out there. Yeah, I think like so. Not only like I agree with everything we said about the strings, and I think they have a lot of depth to them. Like around the 1 minute mark, the way the strings are playing, it's very romantic, very beautiful. And then like towards the 3 minute mark, now they're kind of manic and a little crazy. Like they add a real different character to the song, and then they have a three-dimensionality about them. And I think the horns are also strengthened by having like the orchestral horns in there too. Like I think it really boosts that playing. So this is great. And right, it is 5 minutes 18, so it's longer than the single mix, and it's not as long as the album version. So I feel like
that is true. I did say I wanted something in the 5 minute range. Yeah. So
the string breakdown at about 3 minutes is wonderful. I'm just re-listening to it right now. It's so good. And then another little instrument thing. I'm glad you brought up the horns because like there's a little trumpet flare at the end that I love as well. It's super fun.
Great remix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is. I think we're all on the same page here.
Yeah.
Often somebody at least has one negative thing to say about whatever.
That's true. Yeah, like when I pooped all over Trifactor versus Deeper Substance.
It was one of my least favorite versions of Let's Dance I've heard so far. You know what? And just touching on the posthumous kind of production of this, I saw so many comments on the YouTube video that I listened to it on, which were all like, "Oh, Bowie would be so proud of this. Like, oh, this is like a really wonderful version." So like it really hits with the fans, and they really appreciate this version that was thought of.
I'm glad to hear that it's been received very positively by people. Okay, now speaking of maybe lesser remixes, I don't want to maybe put my cards on the table too soon here, but the next one we're going to talk about is the Honey Dijon Moonlight Club remix. Now, there's of course the club remix, and then there's the shorter remix that are different by. So the club remix is about 7 minutes, and then the shorter remix is 4 minutes. Mixed by Honey Dijon for this project with Peloton called the David Bowie Workout Collection, which was launched to coincide with his what would have been his 75th birthday in 2022. So that's when this mix is from.
Oh man, that just made me dislike it so much more.
Yeah. So, John, I know you have some experience selling Peloton machines.
No, I don't. I sold their competitors. For those who don't know, I have a background in like high-end bicycle sales, and I sold indoor trainers and stuff like that, which are basically the precursor to what became Peloton. And, of course, Peloton was a huge craze. I'm not one for like subscription gimmicks and stuff like that. If I'm so bold as to call it a gimmick. So yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I've never thought too highly of Peloton, even though I know it's done great things for a lot of people. It's not my thing.
Well, 2022 was like the height of the Peloton craze, right? Pandemic days, everybody was inside. If you were fortunate enough to keep your job during the pandemic and you couldn't travel and you couldn't go out for dinner, you had a lot of disposable income, so you bought expensive workout bikes. And people were crazy about Peloton then. So the timing makes sense.
Not to go on a tangent, it's the cycling version of a Bowplex, whereas the stuff I sold is you simply attach your existing bike to it. And then you can use any program you want on your iPad or like laptop or whatever. Yeah. But it's funny that this was created for the Peloton. I'm not a huge fan of this version in general, but whatever.
It's not great, is it? Like, can we just be...
No.
I kept waiting for it to get good, and it never did. Like, 4 minutes in, it's like...
From a dance music perspective and the sparse amount of lyrics they used, I like the sway through the crowd choice. I thought that was kind of fun for a dance mix.
Oh, see, that just drove... I was like, hey, we got to get a different lyric in this song. Like, I cannot hear him say, sway through the crowd one more time.
Really? That's fair. I mean, as far as like the repeating lyric that typically happens in dance music, I thought that was a fun one to choose, but I totally respect if it drives you nuts hearing that over and over. It probably would... It probably drove a few Peloton riders nuts, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't realize this was done for Peloton, but I'm having trouble imagining like sweating to this, right? Like, it doesn't even.
Well, it's got a tempo. I understand that it's like, it's got energy to it. Not totally putting it down, but not my cup of tea.
It does have a tempo. I mean, that's a pretty low bar, I would say.
Yeah.
I'd rather, like, I don't have Peloton. But if I'm going for like a run or whatever, some workout where I want music, I think that like probably any of the other ones, but the string version maybe would even be great, right? Like I would rather have that playing.
Yeah, there's a lot of like sounds in here that just they don't match the mood and vibe of it. It all matches in tempo, but I don't know. It feels like kind of this serious clubby mix where you have this more playful vocalization happening in the background, and then like little spurts of "beh" or whatever. I don't know, synthy stuff. It's definitely not my thing. I will say that the highlight of the song for me though is simply the title "Honey Dijon Moonlight Club Mix." Like, try to say that 5 times fast. Like that's ridiculous. I was like so hoping that I'd hear like a little DJ Mustard sting at the beginning or something. But it's just "Honey Dijon Moonlight Club Mix," which never heard of that artist before. All respect to you, but it's a very funny name for this mix.
It is. It's just the best thing about this song. Oh, man.
Yeah. The last Let's Dance remix we are going to talk about.
Yes, let's move on.
Now, okay, this is another one. I'm not sure how I would pronounce this. Is it RQntz?
Oh, this is great. Okay, let's actually have like a quick how you'd pronounce it.
Yeah, I would say RQntz.
Okay.
RQntz.
I think I'd go RQntz.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Just adding a U in there for whatever reason. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's a weird artist name, but
yeah. And I tried looking on the internet to like see, has this guy ever had an interview where someone says his DJ name? No, I could not find it. So anyway, this version is the most recent remix, released in 2023 to coincide with Let's Dance's 40th anniversary. What do you guys want to say about this one?
First of all, hella funky bass line. I love the bass line in this.
Yeah, I did put good bass. Yeah.
Like that for me is the highlight, and I actually do enjoy it a lot, probably mostly because of the bass line. It's also shorter than the original song, which I was a little surprised to find. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want an even shorter version, there is a radio edit. Don't you worry.
Oh my gosh, really? Okay.
Yeah, there's a 330 radio edit.
It's definitely more of a standalone track as compared to the other dance music versions we've heard, where it is designed to be listened to in your headphones while you're doing whatever. It's not a DJ mix, to be mixed into a set. So, I found it really enjoyable, actually. Although some of the backing vocals I felt like were shoehorned in there, I didn't enjoy that kind of aspect of the production. Otherwise, yeah, I really enjoyed it.
John, would you say, is this EDM, or how would you describe this?
EDM, yes, because that's kind of an all-encompassing term. I guess this is I'm bad with identifying this stuff because it usually goes by tempo, BPM, but I would say it's house, probably.
Yeah, I can see this going well in, I wrote down, DA Club.
Yeah.
But I was listening to this on a Sunday afternoon, and it didn't land.
Oh, that's
this isn't really this isn't really my style, right? So
yeah, it's not quite Count Basie.
No, it's not. It's no Duke Ellington. So I'm not making commentary on the skill and talent of what went into it, but I just found for me this is a skip when it comes up on shuffle.
Yeah. How do we feel about the use of the ship horn in here?
There's a ship horn. I don't know if I even picked up on that. That's a typical EDM drop. Yeah, that just dropping in some sort of sound effect. It's equivalent to an air horn blast, blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Because it made me think. Remember how you used to always get those calls from the captain?
Oh goodness, yeah. Oh,
oh no way.
That's a throwback.
Yeah, it does remind me of those old scam calls from 15 years ago, maybe, where there was this horn, and then it's all aboard, and he won a cruise, and you had to call them to claim your prize or whatever, and supposedly it was the captain calling you. I don't know if any of our listeners used to get those. Or
yeah, let us know if that was a global phenomenon or if that was just Western
just
Canada.
Me, I don't know. Yeah. Oh man, that's a blast from the past, eh? Oh, I'm gonna appreciate this mix more now.
That's right. Okay, well, let's move on to China Girl now. So we have obviously some mixes of this song as well. The first one we're going to talk about is, again, the single version.
She said.
This single version is 4 minutes 18 seconds, so it cuts off about a minute of the song. At the end of the song, on the album version, they repeat the sixth verse twice. They just don't do that. And then they also cut out the second guitar solo. So do we think anything... Well, that's what I know. You said you had noticed some actual mixing differences.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I would say I thought that the vocals were slightly more prominent on this version. And was it remastered when they released it in 2018 for Loving the Alien, or was that just a straight re-release?
No, you're right. Yes, it was as part of that box set. It was remastered. And actually, I'll just quickly mention a minor annoyance I have with, I'm not sure who exactly is in control of the David Bowie official YouTube album playlists, but in those album playlists they default to the single versions. So when you're listening to the Let's Dance album YouTube playlist, they put in the Let's Dance single version, the Modern Love single version, and the China Girl single version instead of the actual album versions. So you have to actually hunt down to find the, which is odd. Why would you do that, So I'm not sure if it's YouTube who does that, or if it's David Bowie's estate, or Warner Parlophone is in charge of curating those playlists. But anyway, that needs to be fixed.
It does.
looking at a lot of these YouTube versions for these this podcast, I've seen that in many cases on the Bowie channel, the description is like auto-generated by YouTube, which speaks to me as some guy in an office that works for the label that represents Bowie at that time just threw it up on YouTube and didn't even bother to like do any extra and then auto-generate all that. I don't care. It's up now. In that line of thinking, I think, it's probably just a mistake that somebody didn't put thought into.
Yeah.
Bringing her back to this particular track. I mean, other than that pretty subtle difference that could be a consequence of the 2018 remaster, I mean, the parts that they kept are pretty similar, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it would sound enormously different to a casual listener, but I mean, I would still recommend to people listening to the album version. Just as I think 80% of the time, you're probably better off with the album versions if you want to get the full experience and not the kind of listening to the whole album, right? As opposed to the experience of listening to individual tracks played disjointedly on the radio, which is just a different way of presenting music, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, cutting out guitar solos, big no-no in my book. So, that's definitely a mark against.
Okay, so we have a remix now. This also is from the Club Bowie compilation in 2003. This mix here is the Riff and Vox mix. There's a club mix, and of course there is a radio mix of this mix.
Never would have guessed.
Yeah, common theme here. Anyway, this mix is done by Ian Widgery.
Trying to be Chinese at the beginning. That kind of made me laugh a little bit.
What nationality are these artists?
Well, as I say, the studio and musicians were apparently based all in Southeast Asia.
Okay, I was gonna say it really antes up the Chinese influence right from the beginning. With I'm not particularly sure the instrument, but Chinese style string instruments. It was interesting. I didn't totally dislike it, it was a little seemed a little busy throughout, but at the same time, I think it found a balance with that. It never felt overwhelming, although I could call it busy.
It needs more bass, I think.
Yeah, I could agree.
A little more. Something can move you a little bit more. More beat.
Yeah,
sure. It wasn't bad. I kind of agree with your take, John. Would it be hitting the club? I don't know, but it was an interesting...
Well, it's funny you say that, because this is another song that is a very long mix, so I think it is, in that same sense, designed to be mixed into a DJ set, but I also don't know. Anybody's allowed to make music at any length they want, but, that usually is a clue to me for why they produced it, what the intent was.
Yeah, that could be the case.
Yeah, what I actually would recommend for this one is the opposite advice you gave just a second ago for the single mix of China Girl. I would actually encourage listeners to listen to the radio mix of this Riff and Vox mix, because it basically cuts out the slower meandering parts and really just keeps it to a more punchier version.
Yeah.
And all elements are there.
Yeah, it's really sparse up until 2.5 minutes roughly, and then it kind of kicks off and gets a bit more dancey, with a lot more energy to it, complexity. And
then I know I've been told not to worry too much about the lyrics, but what I will say about the lyrics here is that they're really sugarcoating the darker edges of this song, right? There's no mention of the fascist
swastikas.
Yeah, exactly. All that taken out, all those. It's just really focusing on the romantic nature of the earlier in the song. So
yeah, maybe they were trying to avoid that kind of touchiness around that time. Funny, maybe people 20 years earlier were a bit more, I don't know, numb to it. I have no idea.
Yeah, you could just say what you wanted back then. You didn't have to worry about
Good old
it.
days, yeah.
The good old days, yeah. Sure.
I mean, we talked about, like, it's not actually a fascist song, but, I mean, whatever, I kind of get, like, if you're chopping up the lyrics, like,
Yeah.
and reordering bits, that nuance might be lost, so maybe it's better just to not have those parts, right?
And in a dance mix,
Yeah.
going back to the whole lyrical complexity thing, that with so much like metaphor going on and stuff doesn't really fit a dance mix as well. So I can understand why they decided not to include it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Next mix we're going to talk about of China Girl is the Cinemix. This here is mixed by Triptonic, also released in 2003.
Really? Okay. Same compilation? Club Bowie?
Well, this one here was released on a promo EP. Was not actually on the Club Bowie CD, but it did appear on that expensive promo CD for 1,600 Canadian dollars.
We gotta have it!
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, thankfully this was officially released digitally in 2023, so slowly we're getting those mixes without having to pay the $1,600. But we're still waiting on that radio mix 2 of Let's Dance.
Wouldn't it suck if you finally paid the money and then they released it?
Well, exactly, yeah. You'd feel a real
Next
fool.
year,
You know?
be like, I want my money back.
I would probably still have collectible value, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So Cinemix, I mean, this one, it showcases his talent as a vocalist because it took a lot of what was going on in the song out. But it's also edited in ways that I found kind of annoying and weird. 2 minutes in, it's in the way of my eyes. It's repeated and it sounded like a record skip.
It's in the way of my eyes. It's in the way of my eyes.
I kind of double taked and rewound, and no, that wasn't a mistake, at least on YouTube. So I don't know. It's parts of it that I liked, but I don't know. There's some editing choices here that I.
It's interesting that this mix from 2003 really brought you back to that era because you just said you rewound the song. I didn't realize you were listening to it on cassette. Yeah?
Well, it's funny how you use these terms, right? That don't make sense anymore in a digital context. You might copy and paste something. You don't paste it anymore, right?
Yeah.
Nobody uses paste on their computer, but these terms survive even when the actual thing that named them is long gone. It's interesting how that works, but
yeah, it's a very subdued version. In my notes here, I said it could be used in a movie, perhaps, but it also could be used to put me to sleep. Besides the shouting about swastikas, about halfway through.
just when you're dozing off.
Yeah, exactly. The wake me up, or maybe put some sort of subliminal messaging into my head as I'm falling asleep. Yeah, probably not.
Oh yeah.
I'm probably not going to fall asleep to this. If I'm honest, I'm not going to put this on as the white noise before I go to sleep. But it was a very calming kind of experience listening to it, frankly.
Yeah, what I said about the kind of calmingness is the opening synth that I feel like we're all talking about when we're talking about the calm nature of the song. For me, really, it makes me think of I'm in an electronics store and I'm looking at TVs and I feel that's the soundtrack of just those generic AI
Really?
backgrounds.
A video of the ocean or something.
Yeah.
Because I got Dire Straits in my head when I think of that.
Oh, okay.
It's two very different.
That's interesting. I could see the imagery you're putting forth there. Yeah.
But yeah, like Andrew, I really enjoy hearing kind of more of an a cappella-ish Bowie vocal. And also Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar also gets kind of a little more isolation, so you get to hear the kind of grittiness of that guitar work as well. Is this a version I would return to a lot? Is this a version I would feel happy paying $1,600 for? Probably not, but I don't hate it. Also, on that $1,600 CD, I will point out there are a few China Girl club mixes / radio edits that combine the song with Major Tom and Let's Dance. So I assume that's a mashup of Space Oddity, Let's Dance, and China Girl. There are 4 different versions of that mashup somehow. There's also a Red Shoes mix NB Heavy Alt Club Mix of China Girl, which is that. Now that's a mouthful. And there's also apparently a club mix, just a pure club mix of China Girl that are awaiting broader release. Something to look forward to.
You're piquing my curiosity. I'm craving it now.
Well, let's invest in a startup and make some money.
Yeah. Or maybe one of our ballin' listeners can maybe purchase it and, after giving it a listen, burning it themselves, maybe they can send it our way. Yeah. Or post it to YouTube, honestly. Better yet, post that stuff to YouTube and then share it with our audience. Share it with the fans.
Okay, next is Modern Love, the final single from the album. Or I guess Without You is technically the final single, but there's no other mixes of that song. So the first one for Modern Love is we'll talk about the single version. This is just really slightly shorter than the album version. The drums come in earlier, the sax solo comes in earlier, and there's no third repeat of the chorus, which I feel like we can live without.
Yeah, it's really very similar, right?
Yeah. They're not taking much out of it with this slightly shorter version, which is kind of nice, that because they don't have as much to shorten to bring it into the kind of range of single length. They're not sacrificing as much by doing it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't know if I would notice the difference if I wasn't paying attention, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's one of those ones where I think if you're not paying attention, you can easily mistake it for the album version, vice versa. Okay, the next one is a little more distinct and obviously comes with a video. This is the Pepsi remix of Modern Love. In 1987, Bowie was going on tour with the Glass Spider Tour. And basically Bowie needed multiple sets so that, because it took a lot of time to build and in order to adhere to the touring schedule, the set needed to be built while he was still performing in another city. So he needed a lot of money to build all these different high-tech sets. He wasn't able to fund it on his own, so he did have to sign a deal with Pepsi, kind of a branding deal. So
did they use the high-tech sets in this video? Because wow.
No, this video is completely separate from the Glass Spider Tour, other than Bowie's Glass Spider Tour era mullet. Which makes an appearance later in the commercial. Anyway, this Modern Love version was made into a commercial. It was filmed in Amsterdam at a TV studio there. It was designed to go along with Pepsi's motto at the time, which was the choice for a new generation. However, sadly, or maybe not, I guess we'll talk about our opinions of this video in a minute, but the commercial actually didn't get a lot of airplay because right as it was being released onto television stations, some allegations came out against Bowie for sexual assault, which were disproven in court. But it was enough for Pepsi at the time to pull the commercial because of fear of scandal and stuff. Yeah. Like that, so.
Well, the theme in this is like he's basically scientifically creating a attractive woman, I guess. Mm-hmm. I guess it's a little too close for comfort to those allegations, it seems.
Yeah, it's interesting to think of it that way. Like, Modern Love is this thing that I made in a lab, right? Like, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it is kind of just fun to watch if you turn the critical side of your brain off, and it's like there's all this weird stuff going on and like this crazy mad scientist thing.
It's extremely fast paced.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on.
A second, I didn't realize, I'm just rewatching it, I didn't realize it was Tina Turner.
Yeah, exactly.
In this. Oh my
Celebrity
goodness.
cameo.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's cool. And to be honest, if you guys go find this on YouTube, the listeners, I have to be honest, you know how like standard definition video doesn't translate well into digital media often? I, until like the end, could not really tell whether or not it was Bowie or a lookalike in this video. It's a little too potato quality. Yeah, I mean, it could have been possible that they just used his music and maybe his likeness, but no, I that's Bowie in it, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So the lyrics, where do they come from?
I think the lyrics were re-recorded specifically for this commercial.
So it's a different version specifically for this.
Yeah, because Tina Turner sings on it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it doesn't appear elsewhere. It's really just exclusively for this commercial.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
You know what? And I'll say one last thing. It reminded me of a time when commercials were about a minute long or longer.
Yeah.
Instead of what we have nowadays, especially with streaming services. Interesting, a bit more, theatrical.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
I would not press the skip ad button on this one.
No, exactly. Yeah.
No, honestly not. Gives me Super Bowl ad vibes,
Yes, yeah, it's true. Yes.
Very over the top production, star power. Yeah.
Kind of the one place where you still see like long form commercials. That's an interesting point, because I feel like if you're making a commercial for YouTube, you got to get everything in 4 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Because people are going to skip it or mute it or whatever. So yeah. It's an interesting observation.
Just to quickly point out, I really like the dancing that Bowie does at the end of the video with Tina Turner, and I think if you allow me to turn the critical side of my brain back on,
please.
I feel like the disappointing part of this creation of the perfect woman is like there's 0 personality traits that are included. And it seems the whole personality is just Pepsi, which is,
Well,
maybe...
no, you can't really argue that the heart drawn on a piece of paper is a personality trait. Love, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that's just more the vital organ to pump keep this person alive.
Yeah, right. I like how there was like an actual like leather shoe put in there too. Like all the other stuff is like pages out of magazines and stuff, and then there's this one physical object, just a fancy shoe, high heel. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But this feels like an appropriate time to get to a burning question. I'm sure most of our listeners have. Are you guys Team Pepsi or Team Coke?
Oh gosh.
And I want you to think about this in the broad sense. I want you to think like Fanta, 7-Up, Sprite, Barks, all the...
Okay, but...
Oh, whoa, okay. We're talking about Yum Foods versus the whatever the Coca-Cola giant is. I think I'm more Coca-Cola leaning in my purchasing, I guess. I don't know. If we're talking about Pepsi and Coke specifically, I find Pepsi a little sweeter than I like. And I think that's generally considered to be a big difference between them.
Like all the brands you just mentioned, I don't even know which one makes those. Like Barks, is that Pepsi or Coke? I
think that one is. I think Barks is. Ooh, that's a good question.
Don't even know. So this is clearly a bullshit question.
No,
I know that 7-Up is Pepsi.
Okay. Well, the truth is, I don't drink soft drinks much at all. Canada Dry is pretty much the only one I ever drink.
Is that one's under Coca-Cola, right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, yeah.
I like those San Pellegrino. What one's San Pellegrino? Is that owned by one of the big like bottling?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe that makes me Coke then, just because they have Canada Dry. But yeah, if I want a fizzy beverage, I would much rather have a beer. If I'm gonna have something bad for me, I'd take the alcohol over the sugar. To be honest, that's my answer.
Yeah, support your local microbreweries. Yeah. What about aspartame though? You don't love that Coke Zero?
Look it up, baby. No.
But I'm glad we covered that, because that was a really burning question when we saw this commercial. First thing that popped into mind was, oh boy, I can't wait to hear if Aaron and Andrew are Coke or Pepsi, fans.
Everybody wants to know, right?
Yeah. Personally, if you do care, I'm probably more Team Coke, but really in an ideal world, I would go with the most ridiculous knockoff brand names, like when it's like
RC Cola,
or like what was it? It's like Dr. Zepp instead of Dr. Pepper, and
or Dr. Pibb.
Yeah, exactly, right.
I just take whatever the restaurant has normally. I don't care.
I actually really do love when you're in a place that is one or the other, and then like someone actually will refuse to order anything because it's not like the brand they like. And it's like, okay, really, like, like, come on, it can't be that big of.
Dude, that blows my mind. I am never that picky. It tastes like sugar water. I'm not paying that close attention to how it tastes. A cola is pretty much a cola to me.
Okay, the last version of Modern Love is the Moonage Daydream mix. So this came out in 2022 as part of the Moonage Daydream documentary project, where some Bowie tracks were used in the documentary and remixed for that purpose. So basically this one is mostly an instrumental mix, and then towards the end of the song you get the full elements.
I think it's fun to hear what the musical side is doing without the vocals on top. I can see it working well with the movie, but I mean, like, yeah, you wouldn't play this at home, I don't think, right?
Yeah, I agree. I love how prominent it makes the saxophone sound in this. I really enjoy that part. Agreed, I wouldn't be putting this on for my own listening pleasure. And how it fades out to the a cappella bit at the end was like really jarring when I heard it the first time. Like I was just like, "Whoa, the song's over, I guess." And then they cut back in with a couple more vocal blasts there, and then
something I find odd in the mixing choices is that, like, when the backing vocals do come in, they're very low in the mix, and then they're finally at the right volume, but only in the a cappella section. So I don't know, I feel like they could have boosted those backing vocals up a little earlier. But okay, so that finishes up the Modern Love stuff. Now we have some Cat People associated songs to deal with. The first one obviously is the original version of Cat People, which was recorded for the Cat People soundtrack in 1982. The song itself was recorded in the summer 1981, with Giorgio Moroder's instrumental part being recorded in Los Angeles, and then Bowie's vocal being done in Montreux in Switzerland. It was actually the director of the film, Paul Schrader, who asked Bowie to write the lyrics to the music that Moroder had already composed for the film, and the song won a Golden Globe, which Bowie and Moroder shared. And it was actually during this session at Montreux that Bowie bumped into Queen, and which led to the Under Pressure collaboration. There's obviously the full 6 minute or so mix of Cat People, and then there's a single version that's just over 4 minutes. What do we think about the original version of Cat People compared to the Let's Dance album version?
I mean, they're both good. I think I mentioned in a previous episode, I like the original version better. So this song, like, it reminds me a lot of The Doors and Jim Morrison, which is one of my favorite bands. I haven't seen Cat People, the film, so I won't comment on like how it fits within that. But I was thinking about that parallel with The Doors and how the song has been used over time. So if you've seen the movie Apocalypse Now, you know that it ends with a song called The End by The Doors, which is like this very, I don't know, dramatic, haunting, moving piece.
Building.
Yeah, this felt to me a lot like that. And this song, I think it was the original, but may have been the album version. I'm not sure. But one version of this was used in Inglourious Bastards.
Yes. Yeah.
And Tarantino is for sure the kind of filmmaker who would, I think, maybe appreciate kind of those parallels, and it's almost like echoing Apocalypse Now, which I thought was kind of cool how that they all sort of connect there. But yeah, it's a great piece. I'm glad that we get the chance to talk about the original, because it's just fantastic. In a way, it's a bit different from a lot of the rest of what made it onto this album. Like, it doesn't quite fit with the kind of dance pop anthems that take up most of the record, but it's a great track.
I have to say, I'm going to sound like a broken record. I do like this version more than the version on the album. It's more of a, rock-based kind of track, and it feels like kind of like a rock opera, but it's like I get Meatloaf vibes almost from it.
Oh boy, yeah.
But I not quite as rock opera-y as Meatloaf, but at the same time, I really enjoy it, but I don't think it would fit the album like the more synthy kind of a keyboard-based version was. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I prefer it, but yeah, definitely not quite the fit for the album.
I also really enjoy this version. I think, it does have maybe a bit of an edge over the Let's Dance version, especially those cat growls, that's just fantastic. It's a song called Cat People after all. You need to have that little
Yeah, it's a nice touch.
And then, yeah, again, like, I feel like the tom fills and the percussion is just wonderful. Although the backing vocals maybe aren't as strong on this version as they are on the Let's Dance version. That, you know, is maybe a slight improvement on Let's Dance versus this. Something I find quite interesting is that the full version has a few extra lines tagged onto the first verse.
Feel my blood enraged. It's just the fear of losing you. Don't you know my name?
Which are cut off the single version, and then, well, in a couple minutes we'll get to a longer remix which also cuts those out, and then those lines didn't make it onto Let's Dance either. So I'm not sure if Bowie was unhappy with those lyrics or why they really only appear on the official soundtrack version and no other versions of that song.
Can I ask before we move on, have either of you seen the movie Cat People?
Well, if we to use a word Andrew said, rewind to the last episode, he promised he was going to watch that movie, and he did not.
Oh, that's right.
I broke my promise to listeners, and I hereby tender my resignation as host of this podcast. So I'll see you later. This will be my last episode.
No, we didn't. We're going to hold you to it like that. I feel like I should watch it, but no, I have not seen it either. I was just curious.
It's like a weird psychological horror about humans who become animals, and there's like a murder, but they think it was like the guy was eaten by a panther, but it was really a person who killed them, or I don't know, something like that. I tried reading a summary of it, and I was a bit confused. But it sounds like it'd be good, or it could be terrible.
Yeah. The other Cat People soundtrack recording that Bowie contributed to was a soundtrack song called The Myth. Most of it obviously is Giorgio Moroder's instrumentation, and Bowie's just kind of humming a melody that's in the song Cat People over top of that. This version appeared during the opening credits of the movie. Any thoughts on this particular track?
Very 80s movie soundtrack.
Yeah.
Very mystical kind of sounding. I wish I've seen the film so I could put some context to it, but no, it's interesting. Doesn't especially showcase Bowie's vocals. It's a pretty simple take on that, but it's very cool to see Giorgio Moroder and Bowie kind of collaborating directly on a film soundtrack like that. That's a pretty cool collab I never thought would have existed.
Just some instrumentation things that I think are interesting is there's like those like high-pitched wind sound effects near the 340 mark, which are kind of eerie, so that's kind of cool. And then the bass actually sounds very similar to the bass on Space Oddity. I'm sure that's not intentional at all, but it was just an interesting if you are like, you know, a Bowie nerd, that's something I'm sure you might have heard as well. And yeah, I felt like this is it's a meditative loop. This is something, you know, other than those high-pitched winds, which would, again, wake you up.
Yeah.
But just the first part of the song, you could probably try and fall asleep to. Or at least meditate.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
We have a 12-inch remix of Cat People, which only appeared on an Australian 12-inch single of the song. Now this extends the song to about 9 minutes and adds a sax solo. There's a keyboard solo that are not there's not even a saxophone in the soundtrack version, but they just tagged a sax on. Were you guys happy with those choices, or?
I mean, it's a very drawn out version, but I actually really enjoyed that saxophone.
Me too.
It was really fun. I like the instrument solos for sure.
You know what it needs is a radio edit.
Yeah, that's true. That's all I'm missing.
Yeah,
in
probably.
The 80s here. We don't have any radio edits.
Plug mix.
It's one of those versions of a track that just like they tried to just cram in all the interesting things they could do with the song at the time, or what they wanted to do with it, and not so much cram in as like layer over top of one another, but just like throughout the song you kind of step into a different part, like those solos, you know?
And I really, again, I like the percussion that they added to the outro as well. So actually I really do dig this remix. It's quite tasteful.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. Yeah.
The final song we're going to talk about today is the remix of Shake It. Cat People 12-inch remix was only released in Australia. This Shake It remix was the first kind of dance mix of Bowie's to get global release back in 1983 as the B-side to China Girl. So it lengthens the song by I think about a minute or so.
I don't think it needed to be extended. I don't know. I thought this was one of the weaker, maybe the weakest track on the album. There's kind of like a synth bop thing in here that I find a bit annoying. I don't know. I don't think they needed to make it longer. I'm glad this version wasn't on the album.
No.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think this is like, of the versions or whatever that we've listened to, this is definitely my least favorite. I definitely don't like this more than what's on the album. Like at the beginning especially, just it starts off on a bad note to me, where they have that kind of like drum swell at the beginning that just comes out of nowhere, and like that's so unnecessary. And then like I don't even enjoy Bowie's vocals as much on this. Like it's not as clean in so many senses of the word, you know. I like the produced polish of the album version a lot more than what this is.
Aaron's going to tell us he loves it now.
No, actually, I definitely don't have as strong negative feelings as you guys have towards it. But the start-stop that is like repeated a lot in this song, like effect-wise, is a little irritating. But I mean, yeah, I don't mind the percussion in it. I think it's kind of fun. But yeah, I would, like you guys, lean more towards the album version of Shake It over the remix. So anyway, at least we found some interesting remixes out of here, right? We had the Cat People remix we seemed to enjoy. We had Club Bolly mix of Let's Dance, the string version of Let's Dance.
That's right. Yeah, there's a few pieces here that are worth checking out if you haven't heard them before.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the kind of person who tends to like not be that interested in kind of the more obscure remixes and whatnot, but I would say there's some stuff here that's worth delving into.
Yeah. Remixes of... You know, you get an album remix where it's like repeated remixes of the same track over and over. Those can always be hit or miss for me. Like I'll often find one or two that I enjoy. I think I enjoyed several of these.
Cool.
I don't know if I'll go back to revisit all of them, but I definitely really got a good listen out of some of these tracks. So I'm glad we got introduced to them. And I hope the listeners to this podcast also enjoyed kind of delving into these more obscure versions.
Yeah, I hope you guys got something out of it. Next episode, we promise that we actually will watch a film because we're going to be talking about Labyrinth.
Ah, yes.
We look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, change of gears, but it's going to be fun. So until then, stay fresh, stay frosty.
Ooh, that's a nice one. I like that. Stay fresh, stay frosty.
I'm trying to switch up my outros, you know?
I'm just going to say thanks so much for going on this ride with us and listening. Can't wait to talk about Labyrinth next time.
That's right. And as always, don't forget to keep your head warm.